Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below, I tried out a really interesting team featuring Xerneas and Ho-Oh as the restricted mons. Details for the team are in the description below, as well as Crystal, the original creator's Twitter, so thank you to them for the team, and Rental and Paste are also down there if you want to try it out yourselves. Definitely one of the more intriguing teams that we've tried out so far in Series 12, so thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like, I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day today, I want to know if you could nerf Zacian, how would you do it? Because obviously Zacian is one of the most common, if not the most common Pokemon in the format just outright at the moment. And so for me, I think even if you just decrease its speed by a substantial amount, that would make things a little bit more interesting. I think part of the issue is that it's just so fast, gets access to like sub, sword stance, and all of these offensive attacks, and it just has really great base stats overall. But curious on your guys' takes down in the comment section below, and let's get started. We've got Ho and Zacian for this one. We've got Aleki, Venu, Grimm, and Landorus. Okay. Ho and Zacian's a really interesting duo. Xerneas is really going to struggle against both of those, so we could even decide not to bring it here. This is not a very Xerneas-friendly matchup. Venusaur is scary. They have some really speedy stuff with Zacian plus Aleki. We do have Scarf Crocodile, which is valuable here. They have a lot of max options. Lando, Venu, Aleki, Ho-Oh are all good max options in my opinion. Ferrothorn would be okay if they didn't have Ho-Oh, but they do. So I think we probably drop this. I'm intrigued by Raichu with Sing, especially given how fast their team is, because if we can get a Sing off on something after it attacks, I'd say it gives us a pretty major advantage. I'm mainly nervous about a Venu lead here for my opponent. I think I'm okay with the idea of Raichu plus Ho-Oh. Do I really drop Xerneas here? Lapras is still solid as a max option in my opinion. Crocodile does give me Intimidate. Yeah, I just think even if I Geomancy with Xerneas, it gets so little value for us in this game, unfortunately. Because, like, both my opponents restricted just resist Fairy, and they have a Venusaur in their team comp as well. So, it's like, at best, what, I get Xerneas to +2, and then it just feints to a Behemoth Blade anyway. At that point, like, what is the point? At least Crocodile offers me Intimidate and a super effective attack into both Ho-Oh and the Zacian here. So, kind of an unorthodox direction to take here. But they're going to go with Grimm and Aleki. Interesting. This actually would have been great for a Xerneas lead. But I'm okay with this. Raichu obviously protects the Ho-Oh from Aleki, which is good. I'm down to just fake out into Grimm here. I've got Crocodile and Lapras in the back, so we should deal with Aleki first. And I'm down to just Sacred Fire onto Aleki. I think right now I can take advantage of the fact that my opponent has a Grimmsnarl out on the field, and that's not a huge offensive tool for them. Even if you have Hyper Beam on Aleki or Max Airstream and you Dynamax it, you shouldn't one-shot either of my Pokemon. And Fake Out on a Grimm is always pretty safe for us here. Sacred Fire should do a lot to Aleki. The worst case would be them switching Aleki out into Ho-Oh, I suppose, but even then, it's okay. I was contemplating doubling up until the Grimmsnarl slot. Yeah, especially because Aleki, would want to consider protecting here. But I honestly think this is still fine. 9 Grimmsnarl on attack, which is good. Okay. And like I said, I honestly kind of want to keep Grimmsnarl out on the field right now, because if Grimmsnarl's out on the field, it means only one Pokemon's really threatening me at a time. This next turn's interesting, because you would think Aleki would want to switch out. I'd consider even going to Ho-Oh. So here I'm honestly down to Volt Switch into the Aleki. Volt Switch and Brave Bird's actually tempting. But I think I'm down to Sacred Fire here. It covers for all switch options. Yep, they switch. I expect Ho to come in here. Yep. Okay. I mean, this works as long as they're not, policy, I suppose. Ho could always switch out for Regenerator as well, but the thing is, now we forced your Aleki out, meaning I can bring in my Lapras. Okay, it's not weakness policy. That's cool. I could also bring in Crook immediately, but I think I'd rather go into Lapras. Crook is more valuable to beat the Zacian as well as the Aleki. Okay. Only downside here is we obviously can't burn with Sacred Fire, but I'll take it, Good chunk of damage on a Ho-Oh. Now the question is what they want to Dynamax. I don't mind setting up screens here, because I don't think maxing Ho is that valuable for me in this matchup. So, Dynamax here, Resonance into Grimm. Yeah, honestly, here I think I'm content doubling up on a Grimmsnarl. I know earlier I was talking about the idea of attacking around the Grimmsnarl, but the problem is that Ho-Oh is a really bulky Pokemon that can heal up. So if I ignore Grimmsnarl and keep targeting Ho-Oh, well, Ho-Oh can just, like, soak up all the damage I'm doing to it and heal back anyway, and then it gets us absolutely nowhere. So at least here I can, you know, get the screens up. Like, the thing about Lapras in this game is it has to worry about Venusaur, Lecky, and Zacian, so I was basically looking for the perfect position to actually bring it out. I'm actually going to switch Ho-Oh back out into a Lecky immediately. Okay. Works for me. I mean, the good thing for us is I have Lightning Rod support with Raichu in the back, as well as Crocodile to soak up these Electric-type hits. Although it does feel like a slightly missed opportunity, because I could have doubled up there to maybe just knock out a Lecky on the switch-in. I don't even know if a Sacred Fire Resonance KOs there, and if Ho-Oh protects, it's obviously really bad for us. So, I'd rather not risk it. And getting screens up, I think, is going to be really good for us here. What's interesting is, like, if you're my opponent, what do you want to Dynamax right now? I would think Ho-Oh, honestly. There's Sacred Fire. That's a crit. That's actually not a good crit, because it means it gives my opponent a free switch-in. Here I would have preferred the Grimm to stay around for another turn, because now my opponent can just bring out Zacian or Ho-Oh, and basically they've gotten screens up, and now you can bring out like 2 heavy offensive members. So, interesting example of a turn where sometimes a crit can actually work against you because you don't necessarily want to give your opponent a free switch-in. Maybe Resonance would have done enough anyway, but honestly I was expecting Grimm to survive. We did get the burn as well though, so maybe with the burn it actually would have been enough anyway, I'm not sure. But I would have loved for Grimmsnarl to stick around for just one more turn there, because I don't think it has too much to offer past setting up screens. So what's interesting is we both set up screens. I've Dynamaxed before my opponent. They obviously have a Zacian, which is really scary. But I think what this turn we can do is... I'm okay with Max Guard on Lapras here, and then switching Ho-Oh into Crocodile. The one upside for us is that I haven't taken any damage yet. I'm also trying to bait out an Alecki Dynamax. If Alecki Dynamaxes this turn, then I can switch Crocodile back out into Raichu the subsequent turn. This is exactly why I wanted to bring Crocodile, by the way. Like, imagine if I had Xerneas in this position instead. It doesn't offer me anything right now from this angle. And even if I had led Xerneas against Grimm plus the Alecki, like, there's so much to worry about. You have to worry about Dynamax Alecki on turn 1, you have to worry about Thunder Wave or Fake Tears or Scary Face from Grimmsnarl or Fake Out, right? Like, this was just a matchup where Xerneas made very little sense. And so sometimes you have to make the call to not bring one of your restricted Pokemon, but Crocodile just offers us so much more. It's immensely better into Zacian, Alecki, and the Ho-Oh, whereas Xerneas is really subpar into Zacian as well as the Ho-Oh. Okay, they're not going to max. Alecki actually protects, which I'm okay with, because now you can't protect as easily next turn. The lack of a max there makes sense, obviously, given me having, you know, all these offensive Pokemon. It's a nice sub on Zacian, though. It's a really good play. Okay. That's very nicely done. Missed opportunity for me to attack with Lapras there, but I don't mind it too much. Here, Alecki can consider just switching out into Ho-Oh. I've still got Ho-Oh and Raichu in the back from my end. I mean, honestly, here I'm down a Geyser and Rock Slide. Because if I catch the Ho-Oh on the switch in, and if Alecki just stays in, that's also fine, right? Yeah, they are going to switch out, okay. I mean, I should survive Behemoth Blade here. The problem is with screens up, I don't even think Rock Slide plus Geyser gets the knockout. But the thing is, Ho-Oh was your best max option, right? So if I'm able to do this much before you Dynamax, puts you in a really weird spot. Okay. Okay, we missed, but it's on Zacian, so that one doesn't matter at all, because it's not like we could flinch there anyway. Yeah, I just don't think Geyser gets the KO here with screens up. Probably Behemoth Blade here, yeah. Okay. Raichu's going to be really important support. You know, Blade doesn't do that much to Lapras. It is a base 140 max Geyser, but they have Light Screen up, and Ho is just such a bulky Pokemon. We'll see. If this gets the knockout, it puts us in such a good spot, but unfortunately it does miss out on the KO. However, like I said, now the awkward thing for my opponent is that is not going to be a great Dynamax option from this angle. You'd maybe want to consider switching it out. They're not buried either, which is actually a really big deal, because it means another Rock Slide will just KO you. Okay. So what do I want to do from this angle? You would think maybe they look to switch out Ho-Oh or Protect. You could snipe down Crocodile. Okay, I'm down to Hydro Pump into Ho-Oh here, and then switch Crocodile out into my Ho-Oh. Because this allows me to conserve Intimidate. I don't want them to protect Ho-Oh, and then Zacian just one-shots my Crocodile with like a fighting type attack. Actually, Crocodile has enough defensive estimate here where I think we'd survive anyway, so because of that, I actually would have preferred to stay in, I think. But Ho-Oh's always a pretty free switch in for us here. They're going to switch their Ho-Oh out, yep. Into Alecki. That's fine by me. Now Alecki can threaten us with the Dynamax, which is interesting. There's Behemoth Blade, probably into Lapras. I wonder if we survive this with Reflect Up. Probably not. No, they target the Ho-Oh slot. Okay, that's great, because I'm just damaging their Dynamax options so much here if we hit Hydro Pump. Oh, that's a really unfortunate miss. That changes everything. I mean, I could have opted for Freeze right there, but Hydra is just way too good to give up on, in my opinion, so that one hurts a lot, but it happens. Okay. I'm down to protect Lapras this turn. Well, should cover for them going for an electric type attack, I suppose. I just don't want my Sash to be broken on Raichu yet. I also think it'd be really risky to Dynamax Alecki knowing that I have Raichu in the back. So like here I'm actually content to protect Lapras and Sacred Fire. Man, I think if we hit that Hydro though, my opponent's in such a bad spot because it's like now you can at least pressure me with Dynamax Alecki, but it looks like they're still angling to max the Ho-Oh. They have Thunder, okay. I don't think they should KO us with Light Screen, but that's obviously going to do a lot. Okay. No Pero at least, which is good. And yeah, if I had hit the Hydro last turn, I could have then just gone for Sacred Fire onto Alecki with relatively low cost. The good thing, though, is now I can finally bring out this Raichu. This has been a really interesting game of pivots. Lapras out into Raichu here. I mean, you would think Zacian just subs here, but I'm still down to Sacred Fire into it. Yeah. That was like one of the worst times to miss a Hydro, but there are a decent amount of inaccurate moves when you use this team, so, you know, it's not something that I can really complain about too much. It was just the timing of it, because Oh, okay, interesting. They are going to Dynamax. So the question I have here is, do you have Max Strike? Because if not, this Max is completely wasted. Could be Thunder, Hyper Beam. We've seen Protect already. That would be a really interesting moveset. I don't even know if a Max Strike KOs Ho-Oh here, but if it does, if they have it, that's obviously going to be a big problem for me. Let's see. Nice. Okay. They go for Max Lightning, they get baited into it. Raichu takes it. Beautiful. That gives me a Lightning Rod boost. Perfect. And they're going to Behemoth Blade. But Ho-Oh or Raichu, both are going to survive here since I have Focus Sash. They target Raichu. Okay, perfect. Nice, not that much damage. Actually, even less than half my HP. This was a game about patience, but the only scary thing is I didn't know if Alecki had a Hyper Beam or not. I don't do that much damage with Sacred Fire, but that's fine. No burn, unfortunately, but can't complain about that. I'm down to Fake Out into Zacian here and then go for a Recover right now with Ho-Oh. It's a free opportunity to heal up. Might as well take it. I think if Alecki doesn't have Max Strike here, this game is almost over. Because they get no value out of Dynamax. And this is why Raichu is such an important component to this team. So, like, yeah, my goal in this game was basically never make it easy for my opponent to get a Dynamax option out and then Dynamax with it. They max guard Alecki. Interesting. I don't feel like there's really any need for that. Well, you could do it in case you're worried about me targeting you with Ho, I suppose. But it's not like Ho even does much damage here, especially with the Rain being up. And now I get this Recover off, which is obviously super, super good for us. Rain stops now. Thunder on that team is also interesting because you don't have Kyogre. So it'd only be for a stronger Max Lightning, but then you can use Rising Voltage instead. So that's intriguing. Okay, I'm down to Volt Switch Zacian here and Sacred Fire it. At this point, I just want to conserve Raichu. So the question still is, do you have Max Strike on Alecki? Given the lack of it the last 2 turns, I really think the answer is no, especially if you're running Thunder, because you want Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Electro Web, like any combo of those on Alecki. And so this is one reason why I think Hyper Beam on Alecki can be really strong still, because it makes it an infinitely better max option, but you obviously have to give up one attack that's normally pretty important for you. So, let's see. Even though we missed the Hydro, I think we're still in a really good spot, mainly because I was able to conserve this Raichu, and thank goodness we brought Crocodile. I think if I didn't have Crocodile, and like the single Intimidate on Zacian really went a long way in this game, and yep, they're just stuck Max Lightning, which is beautiful. I think my opponent, you know, just got a little bit antsy and wanted to push the game a little bit more aggressively, but this is beautiful, because now they sub. Volt Switch should actually break the sub, given the Lightning Rod. Actually, I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Let's see. Well, with the crit, it definitely will. Yeah. And then Sacred Fire here will finish it off, and now I pivot Raichu out, but I can just bring it back in, obviously. Would I rather go into Crocodile? Yeah, I'm fine with Crocodile, because at this point we just click Rock Slide. Actually, it's probably better to click Foul Play, because Alecki I don't think can touch it. If they didn't go for a Hyper Beam here, it means the Alecki was just completely walled by both Raichu and Crocodile in this game. It has been a long one today, but beautiful. Sacred Fire doesn't miss. Perfect. This is a good example of a game where you just take advantage of your like typing matchups, honestly, right? It's like my opponent's... I think what worked out really well for us in this one is that their Ho-Oh was never in a good position to Dynamax because I got the Rock Slide plus Hydro Pump, or Max Geyser the turn they switched it in. And so that's why it's really risky to switch in what you want to max. But the thing is, Alecki here actually worked against my opponent because like they never really had good opportunities to do much with it, and we basically wasted their Dynamax completely, which was also really sweet. This game's actually still not over though, so let's be careful. Especially if Ho-Oh has Recover here. But Alecki shouldn't be able to touch Crocodile. I just don't know if a Foul Play actually gets the KO on Ho-Oh here. And we know they're not Policyed or Buried, so I'm willing to just Rock Slide here. And honestly, I don't even think a Thunder KOs my Ho-Oh here. Or just Sacred Fire Alecki. And even if Thunder KOs, like, it's fine. Maybe I should have switched out there, but yeah, we survive. Beautiful. And that activates our Bury. Perfect. Now heal all the way back up. Crook gets the Rock Slide off. Like I said, I don't think this KOs Ho-Oh because we don't have max attack on Crocodile, but Crocodile actually proves me wrong here, which is cool. That gets the knockout. And Sacred Fire here should finish things off for us. Beautiful. That was such an interesting game. Like, we had to both be really patient in it, but I think ultimately their Grimmsnarl provided no offense, and I had very good anti-options against their max options. So I think, like, it makes sense why my opponent maxed Alecki, because they were just looking for a knockout at that point, but with me having Raichu and Crook in the back, I think it made things tougher. So with Sash Alecki, yep, Thunder, Electro Web, Volt Switch, Kobo on Venusaur, that makes sense. Life Orb on Ho-Oh. That's really interesting. Okay, so that explains the lack of healing on it. Classic Zacian with Sub, as we saw. No Protect, which makes sense, because they have Play Rough. Often you drop, you know, one of your 3 offensive attacks for Protect there. Sucker Punch, Light Clay, Grim, and then Lum Lando here. So yeah, like, if they had Hyper Beam on Alecki, I think this would have played out completely differently, because Raichu wouldn't, and Crocodile wouldn't have just walled the game. But I can see why my opponent didn't want to, you know, max the Ho-Oh, because it had already taken so much damage. But the thing is, after Regenerator, you're actually still decently healthy. Like, it came in at around, like, 40% or so. I think they just had to max Ho-Oh in this game, and by maxing Alecki, and me, like, being patient with Raichu and Crocodile, it essentially secured the game up for us. But yeah, that was a really interesting one, so. Alright, we've got Kyogre and Calyrex Ice Rider here. I was going to say, we haven't gone up against too many Zacian teams, but the last game at least had a Zacian. But interestingly enough, yeah, while using this team, like, you can see that the meta is already kind of diversifying outside of Zacian. I still think Zacian is, you know, the best restricted by far, and it, like, anything can pair well with it. But it's cool to see so many players explore outside of it now, which I think is awesome. So this reminds me a little bit of the last game from yesterday's episode, in which I just played towards this Iron Defense Ferrothorn. Now, they have Urshifu, so that's going to be a problem for me. This team is very reminiscent of the Calyrex Ice Rider teams that did very well towards the end of the last ranked season. I mean, the angle's to, like, just set up screens with Lapras and Iron Defense with Ferrothorn, but, like, my opponent does not have to go the Trick Room route with this game at all. And that's what makes things really interesting. I still want to play towards Iron Defense Ferrothorn, but like we could actually go with Xerneas here, like Raichu plus Xerneas, Sing into Geomancy. Seems a little unorthodox. It's just, I wonder if Ferrothorn scares away my opponent enough. I'm going to try this out. I don't know if it'll work here, but the thing is, the main reason I'm going for this is because my opponent doesn't have a single Fairy Resist. And if they try to play the faster mode with their team, we can really, really expose them. Because, like, if you're my opponent, you could go with, like, Alecki. I guess you could just go, like, Calyrex plus Indeedee as a lead, but then I can threaten with Sing into Geomancy, for example, in turn 1. They went with Calyrex and Kyogre. Now that's an interesting lead. Okay. I like this lead a lot from their end, because it, like, does push the tempo in terms of just offense. Mainly we're curious if you're Scarf Kyogre here. Drizzle does come out first. Okay. I could see them just going... Like, I don't think they're going to Trick Room here. I actually think they're just going to, like, Steel Spike or Hailstorm immediately. Which is kind of awkward for us. If I had led Lapras here, I guess it would have been okay, because they would have actually set up the rain for us, and I could just fake out and, like, Geyser. I mean, I'll tell you what I think the sickest play is. It would be to Sing them as I think they're going to max on the Calyrex. I mean, I really think Calyrex maxes here, so I'm actually willing to go for it, because if I can put their max option asleep immediately, that's obviously a huge advantage for us, especially given like Kyogre just switched out. Okay, I see what they're going for. They're trying to set up Trick Room here. Yeah, block the Fake Out. That's smart. So let's see. This turn 1 in itself has huge implications for the game. Oh, they don't Trick Room either. Wait, then why switch out? Oh, because you're going for Max Psychic onto Xerneas, aren't you? Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, right? No one expects Sing Raichu, so if I hit this, it's like... I shut down their Dynamax option so early on in the game. Let's see. Even if we miss, it's not the end of the world, but it would make me very, very happy if we hit, because then I can just max the Xerneas. Or sorry, not max Xerneas, Geomancy it. Okay, Raichu is going to miss here, though. Oh, interesting. They still Steel Spike. Okay. Now you would think, you know, obviously that didn't look amazing, but, like, we do have the Dynamax advantage right now. I've already stalled out one turn for my opponents, and I've got a Ferrothorn to switch into this as well. If you're my opponent, you would think, okay, I really have to go for Follow Me right now, because I don't want to get put to sleep. So, I'm going to continue to Sing here. I can make a really crazy play, which is just Geomancy with Xerneas outright. But the thing is, I know they have Steel Spike, so even if I Geomancy, I'm still at risk of getting KO'd, so I think it's fine to just Sing and switch out into Ferrothorn here. I want to switch into Ferro, because I don't want to take a Max Psychic onto the Xerneas slot. But you can see, right, imagine if I hit that Sing on turn 1, it like puts us in such an amazing position, and even though I missed it, it's still okay. I go for Helping Hand, that's fine. That's really risky. That one's a little frustrating. Yeah, they go for Hailstorm. Okay, on to Raichu here. They went all in this game. Like, if I hit either Sing, I really think we're in a fantastic position. That one was frustrating because they had a safe way to deny the Sing, which was just Follow Me. But that's fine. Obviously, Sing's not a move that you want to rely on, but the odds of you hitting 1 out of 2 attempts is pretty good, right? It's over 75%. And so, yeah, can't be too upset about that. We still have stalled all 2 turns into a Dynamax, so honestly, it's still not even the end of the world for us. Knowing they have Helping Hand makes this a little bit scarier. Because the thing is, you're Scarf Ogre in the back. But I also have to respect you Trick Rooming with Calyrex. And this should be the perfect example for why Sing can be really volatile, but at the same time, I think it was optimal to go for it both times. And if I hit either, we get such a huge advantage that I think it's actually really tough for my opponent to come back from. Not saying we'd win the game immediately, but like we would have just shut down their Dynamax, right? I mean, I think Ho is the Pokemon to max in this game. Okay, max. You know what the problem is? Even with the speed boost, I'm still slower than Scarfogre. Which is not ideal. But perhaps we can leverage that towards our advantage. Wow, last year was just frustrating because my opponent didn't go for Follow Me and we could have punished them super, super hard. But pays off for them. If I were in their shoes, I think I'd always Follow Me there because Helping Hand doesn't really even give you that much of an advantage there. But it works out. Okay, they just go for another Helping Hand. I don't think you KO Pharaoh here. I'd actually be pretty surprised if they did, but I guess we'll find out. Ooh, Indeedee is really bulky here. That is not going to come close to a knockout, I think, even with body press damage. And that's the downside. I just don't do much damage with my maxes right now. Okay, they just opt for Hailstorm, which I'm fine with. In a Pharaoh, I could have protected there. That's actually almost a KO, wow. Leech Seed would have been a little bit sweeter for me there, too. Indeedee is just so bulky. Oh, it's because they have the defense boosts from Steel Spike, yeah. I did forget about that, actually. This turn's interesting, though. Do you protect with Calyrex? Or sorry, do you Trick Room with it? Because if you Trick Room, like, I can Hailstorm into Leech Seed right now. Or Airstream into Leech Seed. I could have thought... I think I should have protected Pharaoh last turn. Like, in my head, I was like, oh, I can get the knockout onto Indeedee, but I had forgotten about the defense boosts. So that wasn't the smartest play. What will be interesting here is if they actually end up going for a Trick Room. There's Max Airstream. Okay, that's enough to get the knockout, so that's good, but I just didn't really get much out of my Dynamax in this game. The question is, even though, like, you know, the odds are in our favor to hit one of the two Sings, how could I play it while not using Sing in a more optimal manner? Okay, they do just go for Glacial Lance. Oh, now this is interesting. I wonder if Calyrex even has Trick Room then. I still think it does. The problem is I'm not KOing Calyrex here. I can Flare to change the weather, which at least works in my favor, but then, you know, I obviously threaten activating a weakness policy. I don't really see a great way out of this right now. I think the best hope is that they bring out Kyogre, they don't have Trick Room on Calyrex. I max Flare here to change the weather. Oh, interesting, they bring Urshifu out. Okay. Maybe that gives us a shot then as well. I'm really surprised they didn't bring Kyogre out immediately. +1 attack, +1 defense. I wonder if this is a bait just to get me to max Flare. I see what they're doing here too. It's also weather control. You could switch Urshifu out now into Kyogre. And Glacial Lance. I think I'm pretty behind in this game, so I actually think I'm going to go all in and make a big play here. I'm going to max Flare and Geomancy here, expecting a Kyogre switch in. Because I don't think I KO Calyrex anyway. They switch. I mean, the best case would be Calyrex protecting here. If they protect, I think we actually win the game. But the problem is, Glacial Lance might just knock out my Xerneas anyway, so we'll see. Either way, though, I got what I wanted, which was me changing the weather. But it means I could have protected Xerneas here instead. Okay. I mean, with this Geomancy up, I outspeed with both of my Pokemon now in this endgame. So, it's a question of what Calyrex is going for. Could be a Glacial Lance. Actually, could just be the Steel-type attack on a Xerneas. I'm hoping they go for Glacial Lance here and they end up missing out on the knockout. Because then otherwise my alternative would have been to protect Xerneas, Flare into the Calyrex, let them activate Policy. That may have been better, and then just double up on a Calyrex the next turn. But then the thing is, Kyogre outspeeds me. They opt for Glacial Lance. KO Xern. Okay, I wasn't sure if that would be enough for knockout, but it shouldn't be shocking, I guess. If we survive that, though, we win the game. And also, if I had hit the Sing, either of the Sings in this game, we would have had a pretty good advantage. So I'm still happy with how this played out. Yeah, it was just this last turn. I feel like I didn't utilize Ferrothorn super well in this one. And what else could I have done? Could have opted for the Lapras. Like, it was a decision to go with Xerneas, but I don't regret it, because if we get it set up here, it really should just sweep. It's just easier said than done. Pharaoh felt pretty useless, though. I could have gone for an Iron Defense. I could have protected when they went for the Helping Hand play, and that would have put Pharaoh in a really good spot with Leech Seed spam. Lapras is still okay here. I just wanted to push the tempo a little bit more with Xerneas. But I guess if I were to replay this, I could pretty easily, especially given their Calyrex plus Kyogre lead, I could have just led Lapras plus Raichu and just fake out into like a Geyser or just a Resonance to start off the match. So, yeah. But either way, like I said, that's not one I feel too bad about. But it goes to show why like Sing is not exactly the most reliable. And even though the odds of me hitting on 1 of 2 attempts is pretty good, it's still not something I really want to rely on too much. Because at the end of the day, even if it's just over 75%, it's still not amazing odds for you in the grand scheme of things. In VGC, it's like anything lower than 100 makes me nervous, and so yeah, even like a 90% accurate attack still makes me scared. Although it's funny because like Will-O-Wisp back in the day was obviously 75%, so the odds of me missing both of those things consecutively a little bit lower than missing the Will-O-Wisp back in the day. But yeah. Anyway, though, we'll look for one final one here. Wow, final one here, we've got Zekrom Dialga. It's wild that while using this team, I actually barely ran into Zacian. Gotta be careful about Zekrom here. That's by far the most scary thing. Special Zekrom's also a thing. They don't have Fairy Resistances, so if we somehow actually get Xerneas set up, it would be really good. It's just easier said than done, especially when staring down a Dialga. Lapras is not bad for screens. It's probably our best max option here. I mean, Lapras can survive a Max Lightning from Zekrom. Although Whimsicott Zekrom Helping Hand Max Lightning is scary, I suppose. I don't think Pharaoh's really that good here. What's interesting is their team is their non-max options, or their non-restricteds, are all really defensive. So, I think I'm still okay with Raichu, Lapras, Xerneas, Ho-Oh here. Get screens up, ideally stall their Dynamax, Geomancy with Xerneas, and then go from there. Leading Xerneas for damage immediately would have been pretty interesting, I think. But I'd really like to Geomancy if possible, while getting screens up. Or, have screens up before I Geomancy. I'm going to Hitmontop and Dialga. Okay. Helping Hand from Hitmontop is what I'm a little bit worried about here. But I guess I'm Focus Sashed on Raichu, so it's like, the only thing that would really be scary is a Helping Hand plus Hailstorm. They could angle for a Trick Room here, I suppose, but I expect Max Dialga. Honestly, I'm down to just fake out Hitmontop, Dynamax here, and then just Resonance, and I feel like Resonance into Dialga does so little damage, so I might as well just target Hitmontop. They're not maxing or they're slower. Could be a Trick Room here, but Trick Room's not that bad in my opinion, although Trick Room, then you get Zekrom out, could be pretty scary here in my opinion. So let's see. I'm mainly curious who wants the max between Dialga and Zekrom. Wow. Dialga protects. Okay. I feel like that's not what I was expecting at all, but this is as good as it gets. I wonder what Hitmontop is going for then. Okay, you get ejected out. How wild would it be if they just brought Zekrom right now and I just get a Resonance off into it? That would be the dream. Incin, Amoonguss, Whimsicott. I mean, they're very Ice Weak here. And they're going to bring in Amoonguss. Okay, works for me. Allows me to just get a Resonance off. I don't think this KOs, since we're not like Life Orb, but I don't know. Never mind. Base 140 Resonance is just built different. That's why you use Blizzard, by the way, because otherwise, like, Freeze Dry's base damage is just so low that it's not even a base 130 max move, it's base 120. Base 120 just feels so bad. So, if you asked me to dream up, like, the ideal turn 1, I wouldn't have even come up with that. Which is wild, but that works out as well as I could have asked for. So they bring Hitmontop back out. The thing is, now I can actually just Helping Hand. Got Xern Ho in the back. I don't care if you... Well, could be interesting to switch out Raichu here, especially if I expect like a Max Quake. Or a Max Wormwind. I'm actually intrigued by the idea of like going out into Ho-Oh here. Because a Wormwind doesn't scare me that much. Conserving Raichu for a Fake Out onto their non-Dynamaxed restricted Mon I think is an interesting option. And Ho is not that important for us in this matchup either, so I'm actually willing to make the switch here, and I'm willing to go for Geyser here. Actually, it's better to Resonance, I think. It also could be Policy Dialga, like Mach Punch Policy. But I was going to say, I don't want a Geyser here because it just reduces Sacred Fire damage output, and Resonance does the same amount of damage anyway. Okay, they're going to max Dialga. Cool, that works for me. Meaning that now Zekrom probably can't max. I mean, that turn could not have played out any better. That's like the dream lead into an even better turn I expected. Because it's like Amoonguss is a nuisance here. We just eliminated what I think is really annoying. Like without redirection support, now I can at least pressure your restricted or your Dynamax options a lot better. Yeah, it is Policy with Vacuum Wave. Okay, interesting. That's fine though. Let's see what they opted for though onto the Ho-Oh slot. I have screens up, so I'm not that scared about Dialga. But it is interesting that I am just outright faster here, so it's going to be a very slow, very bulky Dialga most likely. And they go for Steel Spike, that's fine. On to Lapras. Not even a 2-hit KO with screens up, which is beautiful. Fantastic. Okay, it gives them a defense boost, but that's fine. I wonder if Wormwind KOs Ho. I wouldn't count on it, to be honest, with screens being up. Got Xerneas in the back. Fine to just Sacred Fire Dialga here. Oh, I guess you could have Helping Hand here. I do want to respect that, I think. Yeah. Since Lapras is faster, though, I'm down to Protect here, and then just Resonance into Hitmontop. I don't care if Lapras feigns here, because then I just get a free switch into Raichu. I can fake out the Zekrom that's coming in. Good play to not target the Raichu slot. And the thing is now, if I need to get out of, like, Jail Card for free, I can just click the, nice feint. Okay, I didn't think about that, actually. That's a sweet play. I wonder if that's enough for them to get the KO here onto me with Wormwind. We'll see. I still feel okay because of the Raichu and the Xerneas I have in the back, but that's an excellent play. It's going to be a Wormwind, yep. Let's see if it's enough to knock us out. Oh my gosh. That didn't even do half. I mean, it did just over half. Sorry. But it didn't do nearly as much as I was expecting. Okay, that's already 2 turns of their Dynamax. So you can see how good screens are, even against all these Policy setups. Without screens, it's like I'm at a lot bigger of a risk of just getting knocked out onto everything. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about Policy on the Zekrom. I've got Raichu waiting to switch in. Ho has this berry intact. I can switch out and go into Xerneas, for example, but Xerneas feels like the endgame win con here. So I don't mind. Oh, I actually did just... Oh, this is actually a new mechanic, where it hasn't come up in a while. I was thinking since I had protected last turn, I can't... You know, obviously if I go for it again, it's like the odds of a double. But they had fainted. I'm pretty sure it's still just like going for a double protect. I don't think them fainting affects it, but just thinking about whether or not that's actually the case. Okay, I'm down to switch out into Raichu. And Freeze Dry here into Zekrom. We're trying to force this to be like a 2v1 essentially, since we have the numbers advantage right now. And I just want to conserve Ho-Oh thanks to the berry, and thanks to us having Regenerator. Curious how fast Zekrom is here now. This is one of the cooler things about Zekrom. You do get to ignore Lightning Rod. So that will get the KO into Lapras. Okay. They go for Wormwind. Okay, perfect. Because the thing is now, I get Xerneas out. And with Xerneas out, I can just click Fake Out onto Dialga. I have screens up, and I can finally click Geomancy, which was what I was angling for when I mentioned in the beginning of the game. So we'll bring this out. Fake Out Dialga, Geomancy, and then just Helping Hand plus... it's a question of Helping Hand Moonblast or Helping Hand Gleam. Because Zekrom can still pull it off for my opponent here, too. I could also just Moonblast the Zekrom here. It depends on whether or not I think they're going to protect this turn. But I prefer to Geomancy. Because I have Aurora Veil up right now. Good thing is they didn't get any special defense boosts because they never went for a Max Quake either. So that works in our favor. Okay, neither Pokemon goes for Protect this turn. It's fine. I don't know, though. Maybe it was better off to just Moonblast Zekrom there to try to get the one-hit KO, but it could be Assault Vested. I'm trying to guess what item it is, because it's not Policyed. So if it's AV, then yeah, Moonblast wouldn't get the knockout, and then I'm a little bit nervous about my damage opponent to Dialga. And just go for a Bolt Strike. This should not KO us. With screens up. Beautiful. It's not even a 2-hit KO. Actually, that did what? No. Yeah, it's not a 2-hit KO. If it's 107, then it's essentially a 50-50 damage roll. Does Helping Hand +2 Gleam KO Dialga is my question here. I would think yes, but the Dialga is also really slow, so it looks to be really bulky. Since I survived that Bolt Strike, I'm willing to just Helping Hand plus Moonblast into Dialga here. The downside is obviously if Dialga protects, but we'll see. I'm obviously worried about Steel-type attacks from it. Nice, Zekrom protects, beautiful. That should win us the game even if Dialga protects, because then now it's like you can't protect the subsequent turn. The scary thing there is if Dialga protects and then Zekrom gets an attack off, but I was like, what are the odds of that? And even if they do, we survived the Bolt Strike, like it did 106 damage to us the previous turn, so assuming it gets the same roll, then, you know, we're still in good shape. So I'm glad to finally feature like Xerneas getting the Geomancy off, because I feel like I was not really able to do that successfully in a lot of the previous matches that we had with this team. So in the end, we featured all of the Pokemon a decent amount, which I thought was cool. Like Ferrothorn had a really notable win in Game 3 yesterday. Raichu came out a lot for us. Xerneas had a great sweep here. And the first game, it was really all about the Ho-Oh, so really featured all the restricteds, and then Crocodile was obviously very essential to that first one as well. So yeah, that is going to be it for this one, and thanks once again to Crystal for the team. Check them out, linked in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste for the team. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all next time. Alright, peace.